Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sibme Coach Replay Show. I'm your host, Corey Camp, and today I'm super excited to have a new coach on the show. She's not new to Sibme. She's been a Sibme coach for a while, but I want you all to please welcome Kathy Renfrew. I'm super excited to have you here, Kathy. To give you a little bit of information about Kathy, she is an education specialist at the Wade Institute, where they provide customized professional learning in science for teachers. She's also a former elementary school teacher and a huge advocate of the quality of science instruction for all learners, especially in K through 5 grades. So I'm super excited. I know we're going to have you on the show to talk about some science-specific things, but today, Kathy, I'm excited about our conversation. I think it's going to be a really good one. So welcome to the show.
Well, hi, Corey, and hi to everybody who's out there. Yeah, I am more than excited to be here. We are finishing up school years all over the place, and I really wanted us to be thinking about what were the good things that have happened, especially since the pandemic, but also just things everybody's learned. It's a time for reflection. It's a time for us to pull all those pieces together so we can figure out how to move forward.
Yeah. Exactly. At the end of the year, and we're doing this here now at Sibme, it's a good time for us to reflect as we move into the summer season and different activities that happen at this time of year. Same with instructional leadership. Some coaches are off for the summer. Some are still active and working. I worked where I had just a month off whenever I was a coach in my district instead of the full summertime.
Yeah.
And if there was ever time more important for reflection, I think now's the time. It's been one heck of a school year, right?
One heck of a school year is correct.
Yes. So I'm excited because I think, you and I talked a little bit about this before the show, and I'm excited for some of the thoughts that you'll be kind of leading us through and a few of the reflective prompts that you've got for us. So let's get right into it, Kathy. What are your thoughts around as we end this school year with a positive note and look to reflection?
So I guess my big thoughts is that we've been, as Corey said, it's been an unbelievable school year. We have just completed, or still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now we're also dealing with equity all around our country. So it's something we really need to really be thinking about. And I know people are thinking about it and trying to figure this all out and say, so how does what I know and how are the good things that have happened since the pandemic going to help me move forward? So I was thinking about some things that, I guess I'm a little afraid of some of the things I've heard too. So I'm going to start with the negative and I'm going to come back to the positive. So I've heard of a lot of places already beginning to think about and talk about, filling the learning gap. How are we going to make sure that these kids have got all of this stuff? Well, unfortunately, and of course, buildings closed, but teaching and learning did not stop.
Amen.
Teachers stepped up to the plate. Coaches stepped up to the plate. School leaders stepped up to the plate. And some amazing things have continued to happen. And, and some kids really are thriving. They're moving forward in a way that they might not have in the school year. I mean, I actually talked to one teacher who said something about that he has a student who's talked to him for almost the first time this whole school year. And he's been talking and conversing regularly through this remote learning situation. So, yeah. So I'm going to be quiet for 1 second.
We've Allison's joining us, and she's going, yes. Yeah. It gives me goosebumps just to think about the flip side of that coin, right? That where it's definitely been traumatic for many people, and it's been hard, and it is not at all ideal. And as excited as I am about the increased use, and kind of the forced tipping point into using technology, teaching not just with a little bit of technology, but through technology, using some blended learning techniques, and also, rising the inequities around access to technology for students, and materials, and all of those things that have risen to the surface as a result of COVID, and then the social injustices that we are working together as a nation to continue to amplify the voices of those things, and do right by that. That all has kind of bubbled to the surface, but we have seen some amazing things. And same with my second grader. She's my shy, quiet, creative one. And not just her teacher got a chance to really get to know her. I think because she was in her home element during that remote learning experience at the end of the year, Ella really opened up and blossomed. But I got to see her as a learner, which I had only really ever seen her as an artist. And, she was curious about vocabulary before, but she turned into a straight up scientist here at home, which I know you're going to love. And, my fifth grader, who is a little bit of a struggling learner in some areas, he excelled as well. There were some things that were hard, but there were some things that were really powerful that came out of that. So, yeah, well, I think that's so true.
So one thing that you made me think about before I have some stories to share is that I think as teachers, we were so vulnerable. We were open to learning and to listening. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's always been there, but this has just given us the opportunity to make it work, to work with in collaboration with others. So.
Absolutely.
So what's our plan at this point?
Yeah, exactly. And we asked some audience members. We posted the premiere of this show a little early this week to see if we could get some of you all to share some stories. And we have a few people who have shared stories. And then Kathy, I know you've got some stories you want to share as well, from a recent engagement that you had. Do you want to start with the slides that you have, or do we want to start with some of the comments first?
How about we start with the slides I have, and then we'll go to the comments, because I think the comments are going to really complement, or are going to come to the surface as shining.
Once bring it
all to the same. So
perfect.
So all right. I'm going to start talking about an elementary school teacher who I just talked to recently. And she just bubbled as she was talking to me about the work she was doing with their students. So you can probably see this fossil design challenge. Well, the fossil design challenge began with watching a short video about how fossils were transported from the Gobi Desert to the American Museum of Natural History. So they watched this short video. They saw what had really happened. The teacher then asked them some questions like, what were the roads like? What conditions did these fossils have to go through? And after they pulled all those pieces together, she presented them with this fossil design package. So some of the things that she saw, you can see the then in the Gobi Desert making some changes. And look at the way these children have designed to travel and test their fossil packages. And by the way, their fossils were cookies, crackers, graham crackers, or anything they had at home.
So neat. Yeah. It definitely helps us become a little bit more resourceful in that, right? Where we start to see that learning isn't confined to the school day and that classroom, but it really is all around us. So how amazing is that?
Right. And I just want to spend almost 1 or 2 seconds on this slide. This is where she was talking about how creativity and flexibility came to the surface. These were all of the things that her kids did to talk about how these fossils were transported. And so some of her bright, rewarding moments were these: engagement with her students, engagement with parents, students becoming more student-centered, the learning becoming more student-centered, students taking initiative. So, I mean, I can't tell you how much this story warmed my heart. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's one of my stories. And then I have a story that comes from a middle school principal. And he was talking about how when things are at its worst, teachers always are at their best. And they come up with just engaging, amazing ways for their students to continue the learning. And so these were some of the things that his middle students were doing as they worked on this question about where does all that stuff inside the tree come from? And they went out and they measured trees and they thought about trees and they had investigations. And it came to this. This is what those kids were thinking. They were thinking and acting like scientists because they were doing all of these things that are talked about on these slides. I mean, this one gives me goosebumps, just gives me goosebumps. And I have to say, both of these first two people were friends of mine. And the last really quick story I want to tell is about a person who is director of K-12 Learning and Science. His name is Tyson Grover. And I wish he was my director when I was in the classroom. I would have loved to have worked and had his leadership leading me forward. Really, and these kids were thinking about wonder and sense making and problem solving. I mean, I just can't get over it. And with that, those are the ends of my stories, but they're not the ends of the stories. They're just the beginnings of the stories.
Yeah.
So, Corey, I'm ready to.
It's amazing. And so let's take a moment. I want to invite, if you're watching live with us or you're watching this later on as time permits for you, commenting does not turn off after the live show. I would love for you to comment below and let us know what new learning has happened that would not have been possible without the pandemic, right? So again, looking at the positive side of that coin. So comment below if you're watching with us, wherever you're watching, and share some of those stories if we can today. We'll share them on the show. Allison, still watching, says, we all need to hear those stories so much. And it really is a time for celebration, and I know it's difficult as we look into the future. Many of us, myself included, felt like this remote learning thing, it's a short term, it's a means to the end of the school year. And then next year, we're going to be right back to normal. And I can't wait. And it's not really looking that way. Yeah.
But you know what we have to grasp onto? It's that idea that that I know I've said before, that just because the road that we're moving those fossils on is bumpy, it doesn't mean it has to stop. It doesn't mean the learning stopped.
Yeah.
So kids might have learned something different, but they've been learning right from the very beginning of this pandemic. So the learning doesn't stop. And our kids are going to be ready to go in the fall, right where they're supposed to be. And I just want us to grab onto that.
Definitely.
As we think.
So we asked our audience to let us know before the show today a couple of things. And so I want to read out. The first question was, how are you helping teachers end the school year on a positive note? So Rachel Moore said that teachers are ending by celebrating the successes that they and their students had during this difficult time. So just like we were talking about, even with a summer send-off, they did a drive-through kind of parade on what would have been the last day of school. So still finding ways to connect. I think we found that connection can happen in so many different
Oh,
ways.
yes.
Even though, we miss those hugs and those high fives and seeing everyone in person, it's definitely, there's still so many ways and valuable ways. And again, some of our students flourish in a few of those ways to connect. My husband is not a talker, but he will text your phone away. I mean, he's great with written communication, not so great on the verbal. And everybody has different communication modes. So definitely thinking through that. Diana says, unfortunately, nobody is not really sure that anybody's providing a way for teachers to do this, but they are working overtime, creating celebrations, send-offs, making meaningful closure. Just like you said, Kathy, teachers rise to the occasion. Teachers, that's the amazing part about being a part of an educator community, is being around all these individuals who just make it happen with little time, little money, little know-how, and they just do it because it has to be done.
And we all did it.
Yeah.
Teachers did it, coaches did it, principals did it, science coordinators, ELA coordinators, they all did it. They all said, okay, what do my kids need? We all put the students first. And so what I really want to say and think about is there are definitely some good things that have come out of this. Connections, relationships. We know relationships matter, but they really rose to the top this time. And we were able to figure out a way to make it happen. I remember people thinking about assessments and, what do assessments mean and how do we do it in this environment? You know what? People were just ended up talking to kids and really learning what those students were doing and thinking. I mean, I am a bit of a science geek, and I keep thinking about, Mike Fumagalli talking about the trees and finding the mess of the tree. And I just want to go hug a tree. And I'm thinking that we should send everybody to hug a tree and really think about the good things that have happened.
Yeah, I think it was on your Facebook page, you shared that the Forest Service is saying, can't hug a person, hug a tree. Yeah, definitely. I saw one of my favorite was people were printing out their Bitmojis and sending themselves to their students and saying, take, Miss Camp on an adventure. I mean, it's just so many fun ways.
I had my friend, Susan German, a Flat Susan. Flat Susan came to a lot of my meetings with me, and then on Facebook I shared where she'd been and what she'd learned.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and speaking of teacher learning, that was the second question. What have teachers learned since the closure? And to continue sharing a few of our responses, Diana said teachers have learned that remote learning is difficult. Teacher quality is important, and providing clear explanations, scaffolding, and feedback. Like you said, I think feedback was one of the biggest questions. Once we figured out, how to deliver content, then it was, where is that back and forth piece? Where's the feedback being provided so this content is meaningful for our learners as well? So thinking through that, Rachel says that teachers learned how important having some knowledge of technology is, if you've got a little bit of that on your side, and how to use that appropriately for instruction. I think what's been exciting about this, I always looked at my lessons and wanted to redesign them, but they worked and I didn't really have a lot of time. And it wasn't until something or someone pushed me out of my comfort zone to redesign those that I finally did it. And I was always thankful that I did. And so with the introduction of technology into how we deliver and provide feedback and promote learning and community, I think it's been a great opportunity to think outside the box in ways that we can redesign, not just our curriculum, but how everything works seamlessly. Yes,
cool. Let's reimagine this. Let's reimagine the possibilities. I really do think we have a wonderful opportunity here. And I just have to go back to something you said. So collaboration has been so important. I'm currently working with a group of teachers who are reading ambitious science teaching, and a bunch of us got together elementary, and we've decided that we're going to think about and develop together a unit on force and motion for third grade. I am so excited about doing that work.
Yeah.
And one,
kind of like a lesson study, right?
and I want to tell you that I've recently, you talk about what did teachers learn or what do they want to learn? Teachers are still clamoring to learn as they're beginning this summer session. They're not going to stop learning. I mean, at Wade Institute, my other position, we offered a virtual webinar on using phenomena to make science teaching, remote teaching phenomenal. And we had to do 2 sessions, and we have a waiting list of about 70 more people.
Yeah.
Teachers are still learning, and they want learning, and they want us to help us learn. So I could just go on and on. So you probably are going to have to ask me a specific question, or I will just continue to ramble a little bit here, because I get excited about this stuff.
It really is. And it's refreshing to kind of think about it through these. And I think if the school year has already ended for you, hopefully you've had a couple of days to breathe. If it hasn't yet, take a few days to breathe. But I think that the next important step is to take time to reflect. So Kathy, talk a little bit about these 3 questions you've got for everyone as they take a moment to reflect and connect lessons learned and next year.
So I want you to really think about your own bright spots, which I'm sure you have, whether it's that you figured out that your students really did well when you texted them just once a day, or maybe once every other day, or that you saw that a particular student was just an ace at Google Drawing, and the things he could do on a Google slide, he or she could do, were just amazing. There are just so many things that are out there for us to think about. But the big thing is we don't want to lose them in our, it's correct to reflect, but it's not enough. We need to really be taking action and using that. And we all have a voice, and we should use our voice, in whatever way we can, in whatever our situation we can, because we really all, and I know this is true for all people working with students in schools in whatever capacity, leadership, teachers, the cleaning people, everybody in whether it's in a school building or a bus driver, we all want the best for our kids. So here's the time to really think about those bright spots and say, okay, what can I do to make my next school year of teaching and learning better? And kind of that's where I think I want to end, but I'll probably keep talking. I know me.
well, I do. And I love the last 2 questions, right? What are you moving forward with? And what are you leaving behind? Yeah. And I want to tell our audience that you can get a downloadable document, the takeaways from our Sibme Learning Center. So go to learn.sibme.com. You'll see the coach replay notes and takeaways. You can download these for yourself, as well as some additional resources that Kathy has for you, some great articles as others have been reflecting on and providing some guidance as we move into next year. But I think that's so powerful. And a lot of the educators I've been talking with, they're moving forward with more teaching with stronger use of technology, or more teaching through technology. They learned some really cool tools that they maybe had heard about before, but just, again, didn't really have the time and energy or the need to implement them yet. They hadn't gotten around to it. And school closures kind of forced that hand. They are thinking a lot more about the design of how they can keep students at the center of the learning,
Keep students engaged.
Keep them engaged. And again, take advantage of all of the experiences, the learning opportunities all around us, no matter where we are, and keep those connections alive, and better connections with family as well. So maybe you finally found a good way to communicate with parents, or they all were able to get into the LMS, or you've been posting those notes and everything, and now you realize maybe video, that weekly video that you posted on Monday about here's what we're tackling this week worked better than the email that you sent before. So I'm sure we all tried many, many things. So what of those things are you taking forward, maybe even refining a little bit next year? And
just
what are
for
you behind? Yeah.
Just for myself, I'm thinking about, I actually have done a couple of things in my own learning to put myself in my own discomfort. So I've just signed up to take a course from Learner's Edge, which is it's really culturally responsible teachers teaching. And I also took one on UDL, and I had to learn Canvas. I had no idea how to use Canvas, but guess what? Now I can use Canvas.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things I think that we are going to leave behind. We're going to leave the emergency piece of what we did behind. And we're going to become intentional as we plan and we create instructional design. As coaches, we really have to think about how are we going to connect with our teachers, especially if we're still in a remote world. I mean, I'm hearing still a lot of uncertainty about what the new school year will look like. I've heard things from blended to, half the students come one week and half come the next. I think there's still a lot of uncertainty. So we need to hold on to those good points and leverage those good points to keep it work. Learning, not lessening. Yes. I totally lift you. So
many good things and so many positive opportunities. And I think we see a stronger community. Allison said, we are better together. We definitely see a stronger community of educators who have reached out and maybe for the first time in a while and found some of these opportunities to connect with people. The digital learning playbook that kind of started from a tweet from Jim Knight and turned into this whole worldwide collaboration with instructional coaches. That's wrapping up this week. And there's one on equity starting shortly after. I think we've come together and we're sticking together. I think I see that. We're doing a conference here at Sibme called the Better Together Conference, Transforming Professional Learning. Check it out. If you go to sibme.com, you're going to be able to find some access to the information around that conference if you're interested. Kathy, you're going to be presenting at that conference.
Yeah, and at that conference, I'm going to be expanding more on these bright spots.
I love it.
So
yeah. And again, it's not just a time to rethink how we design instruction for students. It's also a great time to rethink how we provide professional learning for teachers so that they can experience through technology learning just like their students have and be better at providing that. So
providing that. Yeah. I think intentionality, leveraging those good points, and there are good points.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you so much, Kathy, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, a great conversation. I'm hope everybody gets a chance to go and download the takeaways, and I know we'll see you back soon, especially at the conference at the end of the month.
And thank you for having me. I can't even tell you how much I've enjoyed our conversation.
It's been great. All right, audience, tune in next week for another episode of the Sibme Coach Replay Show.